Good afternoon, and welcome to the Monday, October 20th, 2025 meeting of the Orono Town Council. We'll start with roll call. We have Councilor Jacob Baker, Councilor Matthew Powers, Councilor Leo Kenny is not with us this evening. I'm Councilor Dan Demerit, Councilor Sarah Marks, Councilor Andrea Hardison, Councilor Rob Laraway, and Town Manager Clint DeShan is with us. So welcome, everybody. It's nice to see so many folks here in the Orono Town Council meeting. As we always do at the start of our meeting, item number 2 is agenda review, where we discuss questions about the agenda and potentially move things around on the agenda. I have one item for the council's consideration. We do this by unanimous agreement if we make a change, but does anyone have any questions about anything on the agenda, any members of the council? Hearing none, I'm going to suggest, there's been some members of the council have asked for more time for the discussion. There's several people here on a topic, on some agenda topics this evening, and we have an interest in taking a deeper dive into the question of the agreement for design services for the future home of the police station across the street. So I was going to suggest that we take Order 25-261 off the agenda and then schedule a work session 2 weeks from now at our next council meeting. And during the manager's report at the end of the meeting, we'll talk a little bit about what that's going to entail. Anyone have any concerns with that approach or questions about that approach?
Just to clarify, so that would mean that we would have a discussion presentation and more time for more detailed discussion on that starting at the next meeting on November 3rd? Is that correct?
Yes,
Monday?
we would.
Okay, perfect.
At the top end, yep.
Will that put us behind in any of the work that needs to be done over there?
We never set a schedule, so we're not behind anything because we didn't set one yet. It was kind of to get that process rolling. This was the first schedule, so it's just going to move the start date potentially back 2 weeks, if not a little bit more.
Council Marks.
Yeah, actually, just to follow up to that, I was under the impression that some work is already happening though, right? With the 500,000 that was already designated, or is all that on hold waiting for this also?
We're going to hold everything till we get a plan forward on how to start moving on it. We've done a couple little things on cleaning and some abatements, but nothing of any significance. We want to make sure it's a thoughtful plan from start to finish.
And you're comfortable with the 2-week wait?
I'm always comfortable.
Okay.
Yep. Fine. We'll make it happen.
Cool as a cucumber down at that end of the table. I would suggest, and while we're talking about the agenda, we could talk about it in future agenda items at the end as well, but my thinking would be to have an order in front of us at the end of the meeting in the action item. So we'll start the meeting 2 weeks from now with the workshop. So if people have questions or things like that, want to spend more time with the material, get them to the town manager for, so he's ready to address those questions in our public meeting. And then in the action items later in that meeting on November 3rd, we'll have an action item where council can act if it chooses to. Does that make sense? Okay. So without objection, we're going to strike Order 25-261 with the understanding that we'll do a work session on it in 2 weeks. Without objection, I guess, unless there's, yep. Anything else under agenda review? Here we also place our different items that are before our committee. So if members of the public and the council can keep us on task for what's going on, we do a committee report towards the end of the meeting as well. Okay. Seeing no more discussion under item 2, we'll move to item 3, which is approval of the minutes for October 6th, 2025. Could I have a motion? I didn't hear him. Was it Rob? Sub. Okay. Moved and seconded. And any corrections or suggestions for the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 6th, 2025? And that's unanimous. We don't have to do the roll call because we're all present. So that was a 6-0 vote. Item number 4 in public comments, where we welcome members of the public to address something that's not on our agenda this evening. So if you've got a topic that you'd like to talk with us about that's going to be an agenda item later on, we're happy to include you during that part of the meeting. But for now, we ask for people to come forward who have something to share that's not on the agenda. And there's a public comment at the end of the agenda as well. So Bob, this feels like a good chance for you. But yeah, go ahead. Please introduce yourself and from the mic. Yep.
Happy. Agree.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
One away. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, yeah, my name is Bob Sinclair, and I appreciate the few minutes that you have to give us. I'm here on behalf of the Historical Society, and I want to talk to you about something that we've been working on now for better part of a year. And for me as a president, it's probably going to be one of the most important and meaningful things that I'm a part of with our Historical Society. And what I've given you is I've given you some information on a lady who, for those of us who've lived in Orono for a long, long time, and I'm one of those people, you would have come across a lady by the name of June Coda Anderson. And you undoubtedly know about her husband, Keith, okay? We have a building named after Keith. But June was a pretty special person too. And she, among other things, she was a longtime secretary of the Historical Society, an Orono resident. She, if there was something going on in Orono, she was part of it. She was very supportive. She did an awful lot of service work on behalf of the citizens of Orono. And we would like to honor her. I'll go on just a little bit more about some of the things she did, but would like to honor her and ask your permission to honor her by planting a tree in her memory at the library site. And we've had that site kind of vetted by Megan's been a great help for us, and also by Public Works. And it's a beautiful site down beside a stone bench, and it's right against that fence along the side where it really kind of falls down at the back, very back. A little more about June. As I said, she was into everything about Orono. She was extremely proud of being an Orono resident, and she loved this community like no other. But among other things, she was a member of the Coda family, and they did a lot for the town as well. And the Coda family had a fuel business in Orono for a great many years, and they supported the town in many ways. And one of the things that June was really a pioneer about that she accomplished in Orono with her service work was she probably was one of the first people in the state to become active in taking care of people who needed help with heating oil. And so she did that quietly, would go to people's homes when she knew that they might be too proud to accept that, and she would find a way to get that done. She also was involved with starting a senior citizen nursing program to help them. Very supportive of our community. There was a strong love of the family and of her for all of the stuff that were Orono. She took part in a grocery store that her and her husband ran. Just a very special person, and a very significant, for those of us that were around back then that could remember June, very significant member of our community. So we're just asking. I've also given you kind of an information, some background on the project itself. We would like to plant a tree in the library garden down where the library is at the very back. And we also would like to put up a plaque, okay? And you have the words that we'll put on the plaque if you so desire and you so support this project. The cost will be taken care of, okay, solely by the Historical Society. However, if the council felt like at some point in time you might want to throw us a few bucks, we wouldn't refuse. But we're prepared to take care of all of that. The tree we want to plant has been vetted through the tree board, and they suggested several, and they are generously going to take care of the cost of an eastern redbud that will be a beautiful pink bloom in the spring. The plaque that we want to purchase will say the following things: in loving memory of June Coda Anderson, 1926-2023, June left an indelible mark on the Orono community. Her love for the town of Orono and many opportunities she chose, okay, to enrich and support the community that she called home, leave our hearts filled with gratitude and respect, given by the Orono Historical Society, October 2025. The estimated cost for this that we will incur will be somewhere at best guess between $350 and $400, okay, and that would be to purchase the plaque and to have it inscribed with those words. And we would prefer that it have a metal base. Some of the plaques that are there have wooden base, KD lumber, and they're starting to disintegrate a little bit. So maybe that'll be the next project that I do. Maybe I'll help put those up for free for you. I like to give back too. And we feel a location that we've chosen that's been supported by the library is the perfect spot to honor this lady. So respectfully, we're just going to ask the council to give us permission to do this on behalf of June and the Coda family and the Anderson family. And let us know what you think. Any questions?
Thank you. I don't think, typically we don't do Q&A during, public comment,
get
but
it.
I would say, if council, we talk about it at the end of the meeting and get back to you, but I suspect one of us will want to work with you on developing a resolution for an agenda,
Sure.
that bring forward honoring
Yep.
June and, approving the installation.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks for the time.
Yep, we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob. Would anyone else like to speak with us this evening? In this first public comment session, there's a second one at the end of the meeting on any item that's not on our agenda. Okay. Item 5, we'll close the public comment and move to item 5, presentation on the history of the Sailor neighborhood. I guess, as we start, we just say council asked for this. We had a lot of turnout at a recent comprehensive planning discussion about the Sailor neighborhood, which prompted a discussion here in the council about, that parcel, the publicly owned parcel. So we thought the first appropriate thing to do, and several of us had questions that, about the parcel and the town's property, and we've had other conversations, and you'll see about public owned parcels and property. So owing to the fact that we want to make sure there are no surprises in the Salem neighborhood and getting back to the folks that came and participated in that comprehensive planning discussion, we wanted to have a presentation about the Sailor neighborhood. And I will say, we'll certainly welcome people's comments as part of the presentation tonight. We're not so much soliciting ideas and suggestions as we are, we're trying to learn things. Happy to hear from people, but we'll hear from staff first. And unless anyone on the council has anything else they want to raise, we'll turn it over to the town manager to lead the conversation. And with appreciation for people who turned out and the work that staff did. If you saw a drone flying over our neighborhood, you can see my house on this too. I think this is why, or at least one of the reasons why. Maybe there are lots of reasons why drones are flying over. Who's to say? But Clint, you want to?
Sure. Thank you for the introduction. Appreciate everybody coming out. I also want to thank, a lot of people in the planning and code department, as well as in our press and communications, particularly Maddie and Cody did an awful lot to put this together. It was a learning session for all of us, and it's helpful. I mean, a lot of this all predates my time as your town manager. A lot of staff learned this. It was a very helpful process for all of us. It's the history of the neighborhood. We took that quite literally. That's what we were asked to kind of find out and see what we could learn about the Sailor development itself. I've heard a lot of comments. I've had a lot of residents take the time to speak with me, and I appreciate all of you. It helped me understand a little bit more what was going on. And again, I think to the same end, we'll talk more as we get to it. The process we had in here is if there ever was, and I think there may be, and hopefully not in the next couple of months, but when there's a little bit more time on the calendar, there would be more of a public meeting where we would just open it up for conversation. And that's one of the things I'd had a couple of questions about that. I think this is the first step in that process. The parcel, we started very factual. I don't know if people have looked at budget processes and capital improvement programs, but I like to get as much as we can out there, and the team does too. We're talking about a 15.21 acre parcel. It's located at map 27, lot 2. There is a strip of land abutting Mainwood properties that is on map 27, lot 397. And there's some, Sklar Park is abutting this. So that's when this was originally transferred. Sklar Park was a development that grew with parking and a road service after this land was donated. Next slide. So a little bit with the owner history. So in 1958, this was a combination of two developments, the Arundel Construction Corporation, and there's some extensions in here from 1962, and extension 3 for George Sailor in 1958. Those are in the attachments. This is kind of an interactive document on our website. When you go to it, all the links will take you right to the documents themselves so you can see the backup to it. In 1961, the land was sold to individuals for individual plots. And then there was a lot of there was leftover non-developed plots that appear to have been bought jointly by the University Realty Company. We cite the book page for people who want to look at that up. And then in 1961, who sold the Arundel Construction in May. Arundel Construction filed for bankruptcy in 1963, filing to disclaim the land bought by the University Realty Company, and it was received back. The Realty Company received their land back. And then in 1973, that Realty Company went on to sell more parcels, and then would sell the remaining parcels jointly to the town of Orono in May of 73. That book page is also referenced there, and they sold it to the town for $4,000, is what we paid for it in 1973. Next, here's the links to all those, the deed to the town, the extensions. There's up here on the wall, we have the far one on the left is one of those two extension PDFs. We'll talk about those again here in a second. The one on the right represents something that was done in 2023, just over 2 years ago. It must have started in 2022 with the university, but we'll get more to those as we go along. So the development, next slide. What could, a lot of done was with the history. This project is exempt from further review under state law. The lot sizes are smaller than minimum requirements for the medium density residential, which is what this is zoned, and could be developed without further modifications. So what we're trying to say is the original deed represented in half by the one on the left was what was originally planned and is recorded at the Registry of Deeds. If someone were ever to acquire it, they would be able to develop what is there. That's the way that parcel sits. To orientate yourself, Route 2 is to the right. And so you're coming in and there's a little dotted line you'll see through the middle. That represents the Johnny Mac Brook. Anything to the left of the Johnny Mac Brook is now Sklar Park. So even though there's a huge development shown on there, it's no longer developable as that. It's a park. It's only up to that line. And as you can see, we're pretty much splitting it at half in what they call as a recreation area. There was multiple lots. The trails, I think a lot of people that live there see them as, were proposed as roads. And each one of those roads through would service 4 houses on the left and the right going in. And that's what you can see. When you see this Beechwood, that would have been the last street that you can see on paper out there. The next street up does not exist anywhere. And actually, you can tell because that land's owned by the town. So when you go out there, there's these weird spots between houses where nothing's happening. That was a proposed street. Some of them now enter into a park area. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the next slide. But those could be built. If so, in theory, the town of Orono said, we're done with it, we're selling it, somebody bought it. A developer would have that as their right to go develop from. With modifications, we didn't get into all of them. I don't know how many times the town has talked about this, but it got to the point where there was a lot of conversations at different times you've had. What we did do is that you can modify this any way you want because the town's the owner. We would just have to follow our own current rules. You'd have to present it to the planning board and you'd have to talk of all modifications to lots, lands, layouts, etc. And that's what's been attempted on a few occasions. You know more than I do. I've only been here for a year and a half, but as residents have been here a long time, you probably can name the dates and times of all the conversations. Why I don't think the 2023 plan was ever part of a public discussion. We could not find a record, but it was developed. We do these are capstone projects of the University of Maine. A bunch of students took that land and said, what could we do with it? And they took input from prior meetings with the public about using it for recreational purposes, maybe having small parks, getting some development in there. There's a lot of number crunching where they were trying to show the return on investment for the infrastructure that would cost to build it. Would it pay for itself? Would it not? They ultimately came forward with this plan. And again, this would fall into just like any other plan would, that if you want to do something with modifications, you would have to go back to the planning board and present this. This one in particular shows instead of 8 lots in between each street, 4, and then putting 3 new lots on the backside and not developing the other side of the road, ending it there. When you read it, there's talks of parks. I'm going to show one thing. I'll walk over. So if you live there, if you've been there, the first street in, this is open space now. It's been maintained by the town. It's mowed. There's no lots there. There's no nothing. People can walk in and use it. I'm assuming soccer, frisbee, you name it. It's there as a non-park in-town open space. Don't know how else I'd refer to it, but it is there. The remainder, you can see some of the lots are uneven. At some points, the town has sold pieces of it. Probably should have done an amended plan that the planning board saw to sell off little pieces. There's probably some housekeeping that could be done no matter what's done, just to make sure everything is clear and transparent to the community what we did and why. I can't tell you, but I believe what happened is all abutters were offered a little bit of rear land. Some bought, some didn't. So you now see a inconsistency of lot sizes there to some degree. But so the one thing the pointed out is that, where is it? I'm going to get ahead. I'm going to wait a second because showing those is a bit, go to the next slide for accessibility and amenities. So on the property itself as it sits, there's no infrastructure to the individual lots. Sewer, stormwater service, both Gilbert and Mainwood. They stop at lot 273326, which is 50 Gilbert Street, and on Mainwood, both stop at 39 Mainwood. The Water District has confirmed the water lines are new and feasible for development. Same with sewer. They could be connected to. That's just the status of those as they sit. Probably when they were installed, there was thought towards future development, and they've sat that way ever since. Whether it was 1958 or 1973, I could do more research and get those. But to the recent study, again, this came from the University of Maine's Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. It was done in 2023. And go to the next slide. Yes. So this summarizes what they came up with. They put in a new 550-foot road connecting Mainwood and Gilbert on the back, on the very far left of the first drawing. They included a drainage system and a detention basin of 2.5 acres because there was talks of drainage issues out there. Basement foundations and reinforced concretes, where a standard strip foundation was designed for the area that what they recommended. There was a goal at the time that this was done, not by the town. I think it was a goal that they did when they created the capstone to set parameters on themselves, that they were looking for affordable single-family housing and a recreational communal area. And again, from best I can tell from the conversation the community had, that to them summarized what a lot of the input had been. They do finish with some recommendations. None of this is, no one's touched this since, but they did suggest the town confirm all the soil conditions. They also said that we should do a community outreach process, which we may be at the beginning of if there was ever to be one, and improve the existing drainage infrastructure that's out there for whatever development was proposed. So we do end it. This is kind of the end of those. That's the history of what we have. There's probably a lot more you may or may not want to know. If this were a public presentation, this is where we figured we'd go into a Q&A period. And then we also reference all the other things at the last page of all the deeds, all the other places where you can find more information about them. And I will say special thanks to the University of Maine and their capstones. They've done a lot of those for the town over the years. They've been great documents, everything from, there's one that talks about building a parking garage. There's one that has a bridge across the Stillwater for pedestrians. There's a lot of information there that people have researched. And I think it's, as we go forward, we always remember them as a great resource. That's one thing that Orono can be proud of, that we got the University of Maine right in our backyard, and they can help us sometimes just explore ideas at much lower cost ways. So I'll stop there if you guys want to.
Okay. I think in looking around the table here, I think if there are clarifying questions for the town manager and staff, and then open it up to any public comment that we're going to have on this topic. And then I don't think we're going to schedule something, any other follow-up on this anytime in the immediate future. But we'll see how the conversation goes. Yep.
The only other piece, there has been a lot of residents that have talked about buying land from the town as this conversation going on. I'm not bringing forward anything of that nature at this time. I think there's a lot of conversation. I wouldn't want to see any further steps done. I think that would have to be more planned out. You should have a drawing of the properties as how they would be sold if they were going to sell pieces. You should have some open meetings. You shouldn't just sell to one property owner and not tell the rest you're offering it. So we'd have to go through some significant steps to do that in a way that is fair to all concerned.
Could you, before the clarifying questions start, maybe expanding upon the strip of land that the town owns between the Gilbert Street properties and the Page Place properties. Can you give us just a little bit of that and kind of the opportunity we had recently to help out a Gilbert Street resident on that parcel?
Yep. So through all this development, it's on the backside of Gilbert over here. On this first drawing, the older one, you actually can see it says Spalding at one place. What's happened is where that abuts up to Page Place, something must have happened when Page Place was developed. And for some reason, they conveyed a 10-foot, no greater than 10-foot wide strip. It must have been a buffer. Some places it's less than 6. We had a resident come in, they wanted a tree that they were worried was going to fall on their house. We ended up removing that tree. That's been done sporadically or haphazardly over the years, that if there's trees in this strip that we've been cutting them. Other than that, no one wants us to cut the trees, so they sit there and it's never done in a method where you can get value for doing more trees at once because they want the protection. There's rumors that it was a wastewater, stormwater area. It's deeded land the town owns. Best record we can show is a buffer. Land can be wet. It can have water on it. If it rains, but it is not a stormwater. It's not a runoff. It does not take it to any other catch basins, ponds, drainage areas. It was just land that was given to us. And I'm assuming at that time, maybe the neighbors wanted the town to own some land in between them so that they wouldn't not get along well with each other. I guess that's the most politically correct way I can say it. So it gave a little bit of buffer that the town could do in between. I think that's a piece of land the town should look at. There's no, we look at public purposes, what usually towns own land if they know why they want to own it. If a resident knows a reason why we should consider owning it, I'd probably love to hear that. I think for the most part, it might be a better piece of land to look at the abutters and say, do you want to own the land behind your house? Because we can't even get to it without walking across your properties. They may or may not be interested. I don't think we're looking at selling it. I think this would be a situation as the manager that can represent this to you. If there was abutters that wanted it, I think it would be, we would write the deeds and give it to them. But that's saying today, I've never heard a resident tell me a good legitimate public purpose for the land we own in between you. And if somebody can have one, I'd love to hear it because it would help me understand maybe why that was put there in the first place. Otherwise, that can be done. You can email me after the meeting if you know why that was put there. I'd love to, that would be even more helpful, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So do we have any clarifying questions from counselors on the presentation? Councilor Marks?
I should, just to start, is it possible for someone to actually go to those two maps and tell us where the names of these main streets are on there? Because I can't see them from here and I'm not entirely sure how the two maps fit together. Is that possible to do?
So back here doesn't exist.
Right.
So you're looking at Mainwood is the top street on both of them.
And so the fact that there's so many more lots on Mainwood here is because they would extend those lots further in this university plan. I mean, they look like they're like 7 or 6 more.
Dark is already there, bold lines around it. The ones that are light lines around them were what they proposed as new. So they proposed 4, 8, 11 new lots. All these other house lots are existing.
What is that street at the bottom then? We're looking at Mainwood. Okay. And on the other map, Mainwood is also on the top and Gilbert is on the bottom. And where do those additional lots, does that map just stop before they?
The official street of Beechwood, the last street in that you can find the opening between the houses. This is also Beechwood. So this street
Okay.
and this street.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
not seeing all of this that you see here is not on this map. You actually look at it, there's another version, much larger, but they actually proposed 10 lots in every one of those little blocks.
Okay. But even though those are not on the map here, all of the darker marked lots are existing lots and only the light ones in the middle in this university plan were new ones. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I get it.
And clarifying question on the park. Is it still town owned or did we deed it to the land trust for the
Nope.
park piece?
Town owns that little, Scalar Park.
Flower Park, yep, sorry.
Town owns, we hold it in trust, that we promise to use it as public, as open space.
Okay. So that's we have a legal agreement with,
I don't know how that was done. I have to research that. No idea what the terms of that agreement were. Maybe it was just put into the land trusts property. Do you know, Mitch?
You just manage the land, the trails.
I'd have to look. There's
Okay.
trails back there. I think it was maybe on the promise of the town to not develop it. I don't know.
okay. And then one final clarifying piece for me, the university study from 2023. I don't recall that being a matter that was before the council. Was that a staff was that a,
I don't know. I don't know who brought it for.
started this conversation when we were around that time frame. We had discussion, and then to figure out what to do with it.
Yep.
There was a committee that was formed,
Oh,
and one of the things they did was this proposal to figure out like what could we do with that area, because I had initially.
Are we picking this up, Cody, on mic, or do we need to come up to the? Do you want to, would you come up and introduce yourself and just, I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but the hand went up, so we're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dan the Ranger, I live on Gilbert Street, and I had actually.
light on, Dan? Is that,
on the mic.
Yep, it's green.
Good.
thank you.
Yep. I live at 29 Gilbert, and in and around that time frame, I came to the town and asked if I could buy a buffer as some of these other lots had. Long conversations, it went to the town, and it turned into a bigger conversation about what do we do with this piece of property for the town of Orono. And it went back and forth, and it went to, so we, as a neighborhood, formed a small committee, and we had 3 or 4 meetings to try and figure out what could be done with that. And because my conversation sparked like, well, what could we do with it? Do we want to sell little bits of it? Do we want to develop this as house lots, or so on and so forth? So this conversation, or this map, was developed during that time frame. We also talked about trails that we could develop in between and that ran the length and connected into Scalar Park. But it kind of went away. We had 3 or 4 meetings, and it kind of died. So, but that's my understanding of.
So clarifying question for you.
Yep.
I mean, we had a leadership transition at the
Yep.
town. Is that part of, do you think, or is it just sort of lack of interest, or could?
It kind of fizzled. Like we were having conversations, and then there were things that are going to be looked into, and
Yeah.
it died in email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Former Councilor Osher was around for that. Maybe, but Lori, do you want to come up? Sorry. And this is, we do that for those who aren't here. We try and include people, so sometimes it's,
My apologies for missing the beginning of this presentation. So this second picture here, the second map, that was a student project?
Closest.
And what's the?
Original, what's recorded in the registry of
Oh,
deeds.
oh, I see. So there was going to be a lot more development, but we've turned a lot of that into park.
It's my
So,
understanding, yep.
so the only thing that's in play for discussion is what's on this.
Nope, anything's in play is you can start
Okay.
there and end with nothing. You have everything in between. You can do
Right.
0,
But
you can
but-
do everything.
But
There's still
Sklar
on the-
Park cannot be developed?
Sklar, to my knowledge, Sklar Park is the Johnny Mack Brook divides the parcel in such a way there's no development beyond that. When these were originally created, Johnny Mack Brook would have been able to have been impacted. You're not going to be able to impact it now, so there's no way to get over to the other side. So I think that's what led to the town
And
saying,
is that
Work-
line, is that,
that's that little dotted wavy line that goes through.
okay,
Yeah.
so there's, it looks like maybe 10 more parcels than are beyond this wave, this line here.
Correct.
And then the size of these parcels at 0.3 acres, that's well beyond the minimum size presently. And I have long advocated, and I did when I was on council, that we should make our minimum lot size much smaller to enable. And that was before we had 2003, the state law that said that you could make a single family home have up to 4 units. But I was encouraging, I live on a 0.11 acre lot, and people are constantly asking me if I would sell them my house. So obviously people don't mind if it's 1/10 of an acre. And so you can have a large house on 1/10 of an acre, less land to take care of. The utilities are much closer together. And so all of the work that we're doing for our roads and our utilities, there's a lot more nodes to have access for buildings. So I would encourage, I think this is a great start, but I would encourage much smaller lot sizes.
Lori, would you just introduce yourself since I don't.
Oh,
think
sorry.
everybody's-
I'm Lori Osher. I live on Mayo Street, and I'm the legislator that represents the town and the state. And I was on council for 5 years, and so excited you're looking at housing, because that was one of my things I was hoping we would do.
Well, we're doing a history lesson today, so we're not, I don't know how far we're looking at anything yet, but any clarifying questions before we invite people up who may have more information they want to share. And again, in the spirit of the history lesson that we're having today.
So the last time any development happened here would be your street, right, Dan? That would have impacted this. When was the last time? Like when was the Gilbert? When was
The
that
town
developed?
took ownership of this in 1973.
Three.
Aside from just maintaining lots, they've done nothing with it
Yeah.
in that
50 years.
52 years.
Yeah.
They just owned it.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the 90s. Yeah.
Sorry, Dan.
No, I've heard that before. Yeah. 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 It's all right. All right. We're going to get into, we'll have people come up too. So anything else here before we invite people to come up for a minute or two if they've got something they want to share or something they think we ought to know more about? Okay. Members of the public like to ask some questions or share some information?
Hello, Sam Coons. I live at 29 Mainwood. And if we're going to do that former counselor thing, former counselor is on it for 6 years. I've lived at 29 Mainwood since January 2016. This is a nice overview. You missed some stuff. I'll help you out with that. The back thing is for drainage because there's a path, a 10-foot or so swath behind Mainwood as well. There is enormous drainage issue in this neighborhood, and that's what it's there for. There's a gully that runs behind the town. Used to clear that out. They haven't done that in years and years. I think you're right. There was a huge culling, shall we call it? I mean, of overturn of leadership here over the last couple of years, and I think we're witnessing the enormous loss of historical knowledge, and so I think I question a lot of motives and ideas and things behind here. There's a lot of I don't know, and of course you don't because you weren't here. I think that information has been squandered. Great history overview. But like I said, you missed a few things. In 2018, the neighbors took it upon ourselves to develop a little summer festival, a neighborhood festival. It's a phenomenal neighborhood. And had a parade, all the kids were in costumes, a lot of fun. We had Spencer's ice cream truck came. Orono police was there, Orono fire department was there with a truck for the kids. It was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. And that green space that you also thankfully take care of, that's great, which is not all of it, by the way. It's just a small portion. We met up there, had a potluck, had a sack race. We take it pretty seriously. We have 2 heats. We had the 6 and under and then the 12 to 6. I still use a video of that in my classes to teach grit and resiliency from when my 6-year-old daughter took an absolute faceplant. She'll love me for mentioning that. Every December, up until this past December, we've had our own parade for Christmas. Santa Claus comes, actually. And that was organized by a neighbor who they have since moved to Vermont recently. And so I hope somebody steps up. I'll do what I can to help out. I know I have the physique and the beard to play the big guy, but we'll see how that works out. It's a trick-or-treating mecca. Okay, people come from all over towns. Some come from Hamden or Herman, right? Herman, right? Yeah. I mean, so we bring them. It's a great neighborhood. We have the coolest little free library in the world. It's carved out of a tree that fell down. Darren and Jem, thank you, hired someone to do that and to paint that, to carve that, to just for the sake of the neighborhood, for the kids. A couple years ago, neighbors, they had a health issue. They couldn't take care of their lawn. They were very concerned about how their lawn was going. And within 5 minutes, there were about 5 of us going down there with our own mowers. We worked together. We did it. Had a nice beer afterwards. It was a great, incredible neighborhood. We get windstorms now and then, like the town does.
We look out for each other. There were at least 3 times since I've been there where we couldn't get out from my end of the neighborhood, and we looked out for each other. You know, we were without power for a long time. We pulled out the grill, we cooked each other's food, ate it, had a grand old time. When we get a snow dump, we'll snow blow each other's driveway when we need to. My neighbor, Mike, young guy, you know, strong, strapping guy, he threw his shoulder out. And 3 of us went over to do his driveway for him. His mom made whoopie pies for us. It was an incredible, great deal, right? So my point is, you see a lot of the history here, and there's some data here that's spotty, but I get it, we're doing our best. But what you're missing is there's a neighborhood there. What you're missing is that land is used. It serves a purpose. It makes this neighborhood desirable. It makes it home, okay? Orono's a great town. I mean, I'm here. 10 years ago, I went through events that I very well could have moved back to Vermont, and I chose to stay here for a number of reasons, okay? And I just happened to find this neighborhood, you know, at a time when I just needed it. It was like kind of, you know, magical, right? So when you're doing all this consideration of whatever, and also we can cut up these into little itty bitty tiny lots and really pack them in there, that's not what this neighborhood is, okay? If you want to do that, if you want to have that housing, that kind of thing, find somewhere, go down to the basin, go to the right of OBC, whatever, see if you can develop that and pack them in there. But this isn't a neighborhood where you pack them in. I know this is just sort of general topic tonight, but I think it's really important for you to have the real flavor and the real sense of what this neighborhood is. Okay, it's a neighborhood. It's more than just my home. I know you guys are town council, you know, and I was on town council before, I get it. So you'll do what you feel is right. But I hope you take some time to figure out what is right as opposed to what is simply a solution. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. Anyone else want to share anything from the public? Yeah, come on up and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council, public. My name's Sean Francie. I lived in Orono for 14 years, and we just moved into Pinewood Street 4 months ago. We actually own what used to be the Spalding lot, which is this L-shaped lot here. Since moving into our first house, we found the neighborhood welcoming. Our backyard overlooks the paper street known as Sprucewood Street, this is the proposed street that they're talking about paving so they can put a street to increase housing. In our short time in the Sailor neighborhood, I can tell you the children come here to play daily. It's an open grassy field, a safe place where there are no cars, to play tag, throw a frisbee, or kick a ball. In an age of children being raised on iPads, having a place for kids to play with other kids is critical to their development. Spending time outside improves health and reduces depression. It gives people a third place. Think about how you grew up. Maybe your family owned a big property where there was a space to run around. I assure you, Sailor neighborhood residents don't have large properties where kids can run around. Most of these lots are 1/4 to half an acre. What we have is this communal area, and we're grateful that the town maintains it. If you build this street, you'd be taking away a safe place where there are no cars that children can grow and play, a place for recreation. Orono doesn't have many grassy parks left. When the town hosts outdoor events like outdoor markets and trunk or treat, they have to close Mill Street because Orono parks are so limited. Or events are held in a parking lot, such as the farmer's market, places where cars are present and children have to be supervised constantly. Not to mention the bigger question, the property on one side of this street is privately owned, this property here, so the town would have to acquire this property. If the town was unable to acquire this property, you could build at best 4 homes. I only see 2 lots proposed here. Just doing some quick napkin math, if this costs $1 million to build a street, drainage, sewer, and power lines, add 4 homes, generates $5,000 a year in property taxes times 4 homes, that's $20,000 a year. And say it costs $1 million, it would take 50 years just to pay for the road. I know housing is a priority for many Orono residents, but so is preservation of the environment. There are other sites in Orono that can be developed for housing, such as the 62 acres on Ayers Island. This money could be used to repair the bridge to increase access to the island. Let's preserve a legacy for our children in a place Sailor neighborhood residents can enjoy. I encourage counselors to support your constituents, the people in this room now. Ask yourselves, do you want to create a place to live in, or do you want to create places worth living? Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Okay. Anyone, come on up. Yeah, please join us.
My name is Rachel Bull. I live at 19 Gilbert, which isn't on this map. It's right there. I think it was 07 or 08. The man who lived at the end of Page Place was gonna put a road that connected all of his lots out there to Gilbert Street. So that would affect this, and it would go over Johnny Mac Brook, and that was a whole big deal. But if, before you figure this out, you have to figure out, what is he not doing that? Has he given up the land? What's he gonna do with his land? Because that's gonna affect everything you do. And if you're gonna do that, when you very nicely, wasn't y'all, when they did our sewer and water, you narrowed our streets because you added the curbs, which are cool, except that you can't get a wing plow down them anymore. Because it takes off about 2 feet of my yard every year, which is fine. You fix it, we fix it. But if you're gonna add all those houses and then these houses, you need to get rid of our curbs because we don't have enough space for, granted, I drive a Tahoe, it's big, but I can't pass a small car. And if cars are parked on the street, it's very difficult. I'm not blaming anybody, it just is. So you need to consider at least how our narrow street is going to affect all these other houses. Because you can't get a semi moving van up into our neighborhood. You have to offload your furniture onto another truck that's smaller because they can't make the turns.
Okay.
But it's something to think about when you're the grand scheme of this, because you will need big trucks to do that.
Okay. Good. Would anyone else like to share anything? Yes, please come on up.
My name is Dennis King from 24 Mainwood Ave in Orono here. And we moved into our house. If you look at 24 Mainwood Ave, it's right here. And it's been a fine place to raise 2 children, send them to Orono schools. And things have changed since we moved in. And I know it's about 50 years, but we were the young kids on the block with children. And I think the point that I wanted to make is that children are so important. And this neighborhood is really looking out and raising children. We sometimes don't remember that children do want to learn how to ride a bike. They're going to be in the streets. We have a lot of walkers of all types and ages coming up our way. And it is a wonderful neighborhood to be part of. The section that is being talked about across here at one time was well maintained by the town of Orono. They mowed that all. And in the spring, they would burn, they would have the firefighters come out and they would burn that whole area. And they were doing that to keep well, I guess there was invasive weeds that would come there, bittersweet and other things. And there's some out there now. The drainage is not very good because the soil is clay soil. And many of the houses, not a whole lot, but many of the houses could have water problems. These existing homes have water problems. We were one of those fortunate people to be able to buy 25 feet on the back of our lot. The people who live up here, they have a wonderful flower garden. A lot of people come up to look at Lisa Colburn's flower garden. We tried to buy this strip of land between the 2 of us. And the town almost sold it to us, but they said no. We even asked to buy more than 25 feet on the back end of the lot. And they said, No. But the point that I want to make is that it's a fine neighborhood, a lot of people coming up there enjoying it as it is, but it has changed over the years. And I know I'm one of the older people now that's living in the neighborhood, but it is a thriving, helpful neighborhood to be part of. And I'll answer any questions. I didn't prepare a speech, but I'll answer any questions that you might have historically about the area.
I don't see any, but appreciate you joining us in the conversation. So thank you. Very well done. So I guess I'll ask for one more, any more? Yep. Can I get a sense of how many other people may have something they want to share with us? Just two more, three. Okay. So is that, I mean, I'm kind of a pushover. So if other people, but so it looks like three people. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Tim Hackett. My family moved from Guilford, I think in 1963, and we moved to 23 Gilbert Street. And I'm the oldest of six. And so I have one daughter, one sister, and four brothers. And I can remember when Page Place didn't exist. And that was very similar to what is now between Mainwood and Gilbert Street. It was a great place to play. I don't remember how many pickup baseball games there were, and there weren't many cell phones around or video games or anything, so it was a great place. Excuse me, when we moved, well, I did get married. I married my wife Pam, and she had lived at 8 Cedarwood, well, since birth, basically, 51, almost birth. And then I moved her out of Orono, and we moved to Holden for 5 years. And then we moved back, and now we live on 8 Cedarwood Street, what used to be 8 Cedarwood Avenue. And we've been there for, I don't know what, almost 50 years. So since 79 on Cedarwood. And one of the things that we've seen, because when we started, we were some of the young people on the block, and we were able to do a lot of things. We had some older neighbors. Now I think we're probably referred to as that old couple on the corner of Gilbert Street and our Mainwood and Cedarwood. But we've seen probably, 5 or 6 different generations. You see the little ones starting down here when they're just walking through the puddles and everything else. And all of a sudden you turn around and now they're up here graduating from high school. And we've seen a lot of that happen. And as people have mentioned, and I won't go on much longer, but you'd see a lot of little ones riding bikes and scooters. And most people that come through, most, are very careful when they come. And we live kind of, well, it's like on an S-turn. You come in Maplewood, go Cedarwood, and then down Mainwood. And when we first moved in, some people like to go see how fast they could do that. That doesn't really happen anymore. There are enough kids around and enough people there that are doing it. And the field that the kids can play in, as everybody said, it's a great neighborhood. I can't think of any place else I'd rather live. And the feel of it is something. And if people come in, whether they're visiting and that, and I taught at Brewer for 40 years, and I still have some students who bring their kids to our house once they found our house out where neighborhood it was in for trick or treat. And it's good to see their kids come up that way. But that feel is something that's awfully hard to emulate. So that's all I have to say at this, but I'd be glad to.
Thank you very much. So there are a couple more hands. Who is wanting to come up? Come on up, please.
Hi, my name is Donna Loving. I live at 13 Glenwood Street. I've owned the house for 3.5 years. Love the neighborhood, moved there. They always say location, 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 and that's where I bought a fixer-upper, working on it. But I'm in the transportation business, so I would request that you would do a traffic study as part of your preparation to see what the traffic is now and then base what it would be and could it handle it? because that's a very important piece. And that's everyone's talked about is the children in the neighborhood and everything. So I think it's a very important to do. And that's all I have to say. Oh, and I do have a wet basement.
Sorry, Donna. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Ruskin. I live at 38 Gilbert Street, and I had a similar question. Because this is already the deed, does there need to be a traffic study? And I'm kind of new to engaging with the town council in this way, but I'm curious about the information about traffic and the school district, specifically data, because that's the justification I've heard um, for the development in the comprehensive land plan. And I'm not opposed to, infill in general, but I would request to see information about how much money is this going to net us? How does that relate to the school district, if that is in fact the rationale? For the school and the traffic, because I will say sometimes you can't even make a left or in the mornings because traffic is back that far up. And I asked about this at the land planning meeting or the comprehensive plan meeting. So because it's approved, do you need any additional studies with traffic or to put in a light or, get back the Saturday service for the bus? Does any of that need to happen to do this development or no, because it's already on the books?
Up to you, Dan. Yeah. This isn't
We're
the
gonna
meeting.
throw
we're
the-
to, but yeah,
Yeah, no, this isn't in the meeting for that. I would think that, so what's on the books is the development to the picture to
Yeah.
the left.
So the history of the neighborhood, that's what was planned in the 50s. It was deeded to the town in the 70s. It's recorded at the registry of deeds. If the town was to put this for sale and someone was to buy it, they can build that. Stopping at Johnny Mac because it's now no longer available, but they could come in there. If they don't want to build what's on the map and they want to change it just the slightest, which I think they'd have to because we've already changed it slightly without telling anybody by selling land to people behind their houses. And no one really designed that. So I think there's a moment where that's got to be cleaned up. So it would require new presentation to your planning board. There's no plans to do anything here. I think what happened is that this is a 52-year-old, and I'm going to say that with a spirited comment, piece of land that was intended to be a very large housing development. And they went bankrupt and sold and transferred and ended up in the town's hands. So now we own it. And so every time the comp plan meets, every decade or so, they talk about urban infill. And the easiest property, quote unquote, I will say my words easiest, because it's already on registry of deeds as a development. Well, why don't we develop the Sailor neighborhood? I think you as residents become very concerned because you think we're the first one we're going to go do. There's no conversations other than the fact that it's the longest standing owned subdivision that the town has. In fact, I think it's the only subdivision we own. No plans to do anything. I think what I've heard from this council is if we're going to do anything when the comp plan's done, we want to have some public meetings along the lines about, I think the first speaker said, what should we do with it? And I think, Sam, you said it best. What is right? I think that's the question. This group keeps asking me what's right. I have no idea. It's your neighborhoods, your towns, your community. You get to tell them, they get to tell me, and I see what we can do and what things cost. There's a lot of goals, policies, procedures, right? School wants more students. Traffic studies, I think, make tons of sense. I think there's a lot of great comments that were said here today. There is zero intention, there's zero budget, there's no money to do any of this. It's just the early stages of sharing the history because a lot of us didn't know it. And we learned a lot more of it tonight, and I hope to get a couple more emails to fill in a few more blanks. Because we've had a lot of really good people look at some of these areas and they can't figure out why we own some of them. And there's another, unrelated issue related to other parcels of land the town has. Some of them are real tiny, scattered all over the place. We just don't know why we own some of them. And I think this is the beginning of a process to say, why do we own it? And do we want to? And if we do, maybe it should be a park, or maybe it should be a subdivision, or maybe it should be something else. So I think that's where we're at. And I think these are the beginnings of that conversation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that, we know we needed to have a history lesson. It was a sense of the council. There has been a lot of transition, both in the municipal officials, offices and the council. And so we wanted to have this conversation, and we thought that it would be important to have both the history lesson and the personal stories too, I think are a good start and a good conversation to have in tandem to understand what the neighborhood interests are going to be. We didn't want people feeling like they had to storm the town office to be heard. We wanted people to be invited to make sure there are no surprises in the Salem neighborhood. And I'm very satisfied with what people have shared today and kind of, my one counselor, but my hope would be that whatever future discussions we have after we have an election coming up. There'll be a new municipal year. We're going to get a comprehensive plan on the books. We're going to have council workshops on our goal setting for 2026, the 25, 26 municipal year. So there's a lot of chances for us to talk about, all right, is this a parcel we want to tackle or we want to talk more about in depth? How do we make sure the neighborhood continues to be involved in those discussions and nothing will happen without, Sam's going to be my first email. The people that I've emailed will hear from us directly, and I'm happy to add people to that list as we go forward, as one counselor, but as the current chair, and we'll see what the new council wants to do with the center seat in a few weeks, but we'll keep people informed because my goal for the Salem neighborhood is, I think a good goal would be whatever happens I'd want the same process in your neighborhood that I'd want in my neighborhood, and I think all of us feel the same way. If if it was up where Jacob lives or on Main Street or, over on the Webster side, yeah, we want, we're not going to do, this council is going to do things the way that neighbors want to be treated, I think is kind of how we want to do it. So that's where we're at. All right. So one more thing, Sam.
Hey, thank you for being so transparent. You've been great about getting emails out to us. We do our best to disseminate it among the neighborhood, but thank you for those efforts.
Sure.
Greatly appreciated.
No, happy to do it. And if we did something more meaningful, we'd do like a postcard or something like that, in terms of to the people we started to get to the point where we were having meaningful conversations with meat on the bones. I guess we would mail people or knock on doors and make sure people are aware. So, okay, we'll close this presentation and thank everyone who came out to participate. Anybody else? Okay, on this one. Item 5B is a discussion about the City of Brewers. This could be why the Bangor Daily News is here. Discussion, the City of Brewers letter to Penobscot County Commissioners. Clint, you want to?
They don't want to listen to the county. Okay, so this started a month or so back. The county commissioners have been very responsive in recent months. Since I became your manager, they've had a couple networking, I guess I would call them, meetings where they just came in to talk about county topics. Led to another announcement. They were going to do another one. Then a few days before it, we found out that they were in some financial need. They had run in what they are calling a revenue shortfall. They're like a town. They have to have a balanced budget. Revenues and expenses have to come out to zero so that you don't have each year. And what they ran into is that their expenses exceeded revenues because of certain areas where they weren't getting what they were supposed to from the state for jails. And so they intentionally budgeted more revenue than they thought they were going to get. And they were right. They didn't get that much revenue. So they've run themselves into a little bit of a hole financially. They're looking at options and they just came forward. It was a good listening session. There was talks of an increase this year in the order of 14%. But there was no firm numbers. Their budget, I've been watching a little bit on their website. I have not checked this week, but I don't think they've posted their first budget committee meeting yet. Those will be starting soon. But Brewer did put a letter out that the Bangor Daily covered, and I have reached out to them and a few of the other managers. And I think there's just some general conversations, and I wanted the council to be aware if you wanted to consider this. But the Brewers asked a little bit if other towns would join in. I think at a minimum, this is probably a situation where my time is your time and we're all pretty busy, but I think this is one of those ones when you look like we're coming into the budget that it may be beneficial for at a minimum for some coordinated conversations or meetings to be happened amongst the managers to find out what is going on. The last it was left is the county was intending to create a strategic committee, and they were looking at changing their fiscal year, and they were looking at changing their budget committee design was one of the suggestions they thought they'd consider. Currently, the budget committee of the county has to be an elected official from within the county. So it has to be a counselor or state representative. It does not allow for any outside professionals or non-elected people to be appointed. So like a finance director from a town, unless they're an elected official, which they can't be. members of a municipality can't be an elected official. So they just don't get that diversity. So it came up in conversation to look at that. So I didn't know if the council wanted to take a look at this. It is a significant increase. They are in a significant financial situation. And they are also starting to bring this conversation into the future need of a jail. Other communities were bringing questions about what's it going to cost to operate the jail? What's the debt service? And I think the need is here today, and the planning has been missed. So they're starting to try to play the catch up. And I think this is where they just reached out to all the members of the communities that they serve and said, what do you think? Can you help us? How do we move forward? And like I said, it's early stages. I did follow up immediately with the chief appointed official, the county administrator, when he asked for people to serve on the committee. And I said, Orono would definitely have some interest if it's me or someone else, but we were definitely help out. And we haven't heard back since. So I think the beginnings of the conversations are with what Brewers brought forward, and we thank them for doing it, is that maybe it's time to reconvene a group and see what is going to happen next. So I thought I'd kick it to you because you have to set policies. Otherwise, they're going to go through their normal budget process. They'll send us a letter and tell us what the increase is, and that will be included in your annual budget for next year. That's the normal process.
Do we have any questions for the manager? Clarifying, Council Marks?
Yeah, just to reiterate numbers. So what we're looking at the moment is that the county is saying that there'll be a 12% increase in the bill that they're planning to send us, correct?
Yes, and I have some questions that I think need to be further developed, as did other communities. They stated a $3 million shortfall. They stated that that was now $3.5 million. There was numbers shared that looks like around June that it may have grown close to 4 million.
Right.
So I think they're still working through this. I also had questions about what their bond rating is going to look like with this financial shortfall. Are they going to be able to bond a jail? What's the interest rates going to look like? What's the cost to us on that? Just a whole lot of questions. It came up at one point that a few of us wanted insurances, that if a new jail is being built, are they intending to tear down the old jail, or are they going to try to get that, repurpose it later? And there was a conversation at one point in the meeting that they thought they would destroy it, they'd tear it down, raise it, was the exact words. There's just a lot of questions I didn't know. Again, I've been away from the county for quite a few months or years. When I left some 12, 15 years ago, this was a topic of a conversation then about needing a new jail. So there's trying to get to the next goal, I think, or next point.
Again, just to my original question, though, that 12% increase, that doesn't even include the new jail, correct? That's just what they're saying is because of the existing shortfall without even building, correct?
So we'd like to have seen it in writing. What they were proposing is a 12% increase this year would be sufficient to be the future debt service payment of a new jail. But there wasn't any conversations about whether they're able to meet their ongoing increases. Does 12%, is that the max? Or is there another 3 to 5% needed on top of that for operations? There's just a lot of questions. And like I said, I want to really stress, I said this when the Bangor Daily called me. It was an opening meeting where they shared a lot of great information. I think that was they opened the door. Now the conversations need to keep going. And we're at that point where I have as many questions, I think, as you do.
And the options that you're asking us for, though, wasn't sure I fully understood. I mean, they set this rate. We have no control over what the county passes to us. Is that correct? Or do we have control at this point as municipalities sending representatives to some sort of process?
You have your authority as a council to say, like Brewer did, that we don't want to pay this, we don't want to see this, and don't pass this budget on. There are other steps that can be done. I think they're at a point where they're willing to consider other options. They do have to go to, the borrowing for a jail has to be a public vote. It's a big bond item. My understanding is Penobscot County has to go to public vote to do it. So again, they want to be very mindful, I think, of this as they're going to come forward. The new jail has some cost savings. They are housing many inmates outside of the county at a high cost. So they're trying to get to a jail that's big enough to house their current needs. Like I said, there's a lot of data that needs to come together that hasn't been shared out. And again, I think that's where Brewer was beginning the conversation with, we need more information.
And just to clarify, if it was a 12% increase, is that like ongoing, or was it just for this year and then they drop it back down?
It was forever, the way I interpret it. It was a forever increase.
Irrespective of other operating increases.
Well, I mean, and yes, and their increases, I mean, we talked about this last year in our budget process, their rate of growth on taxes has significantly outpaced schools and towns. So, I mean, Brewer put it in their letter that it was 88%, I believe, over the past 10 years. And the town had grown at, I think, 30-something%. So they are outpacing typical municipal spending.
Councilor Baker?
So to piggyback on Sarah's question, I mean, what recourse do we as a town have? And I ask this because not truly understanding, county finances, I have serious questions now about financial management, given that this is an issue that appears to have been compounding for the past several years. So I instead of, giving them additional funds to correct past issues, I mean, I would personally like to get a comfort level about their ability to manage their budget and funds. But I guess, do we have any recourse towards?
You could do a letter like Brewer did as a starting point and get more involved with staff and yourselves to see their budget process through. But that's right now, those are the ones that are in front of me. I think we could have more conversations. At a minimum, do you support me continuing to have those conversations and going to those meetings? There's a whole lot more substance being added to them now. You've taken no specific policy position on any of this. I would continue to represent the town of Orono for, as much as possible, stable tax increases. And that would be going into those meetings, making sure they're doing all they can to mitigate what they have to do. But
There's a bill that's bill requested in the legislature, right, that you shared with me. Yep. It now has to get through. It's been put in as request in the second regular session, so it's not guaranteed that the legislature will even take it up, but it's a bill that would give county residents the ability to, like with the school budgets, to approve at referendum the annual county budgets. So we would, as Penobscot County, if that bill passed, we as Penobscot County residents would have a chance to vote yay or nay on the county budget. And I suspect that, this feels a lot like these are how big conversations get started about support for jails and things like that, where, there's a crisis. I don't know. Crisis is a big word. There's challenges
in their letter that
Washington
said they have a
County.
financial crisis.
Yeah, there's a challenge in Washington County that you read about. We've got this in front of us, and this is ultimately they're a political institution, just like the town of Orono is, with elected county commissioners. We've got legislators we can talk to and things like that. And but I do think I think it's definitely worth the town manager's time to be engaged in this and continue to provide us, we could look at a letter similar to Brewer. We could urge, the legislature to take up a matter like this bill, for instance. We could do a lot of different things. But we don't have the power to say, no, we're not going to pay you the parent. I don't think we can.
Yeah.
Zach, we can't just tell Zach to sit on that check for.
Could you remind us how
They'll
much?
come for Zach and put him in that overcrowded jail. We don't want that for Zach. So
Could you remind us of what that 12% about is in like actual dollars for our
Last
town?
year's bill was just short of just over 900,000. So you would be, again, rough numbers we calculated would be at least $100,000 more.
What does this have to do with the state funding? I read somewhere in their letter something about this began because of a state funding problem. What is that about?
It's about how the state funded jails, is my understanding. I'm guessing, and I'd have to do a lot more research, but it appears that maybe they curtailed the amount of money that was going to the counties to run and operate jails, which led to some, and again, there's an awful lot the county did share. I would agree there's a lot of unfunded mandates that come to them that they have to follow for the treatment of inmates. And that significantly increases their costs, especially with ones that need medical treatment. They shared stories where they have inmates that have been there 5 years because they're waiting trial and and that's the law. They have to follow it and they're doing that. Whereas some people are not even in the jail an hour. They're processed and out. I think they gave data on the average and it was, they have a lot of difficult situations and it's just going to be tough for them to navigate, but
go ahead, Matt.
I do think it's important for us to be involved in this and understand what's going on. Do you think it's something that like how much time do you think this will end up costing you or some representative of the town? I'm just curious.
It's a project. It's going to take a few months and it's going to span more than just this budget season. It's going to crawl into a year. I think this is maybe where the council, you as a council may want to talk about getting back on their budget committee, especially to see through some of the things about changing that and when those come open. Who would maybe be interested in that would be stuff we could come back and talk about. But, and from my perspective, yeah, I would assume this is going to be a significant amount of time.
All those in favor of appointing Counselor Leo Kenny to the budget?
Yes.
Good luck.
That man knows how to say no.
He would get, yeah, he'd get some traction.
Yes.
So is it fair to assume we don't have a letter in front of us to sign? Fair to assume we'd like to, and I don't know that we don't have a formal order asking you to do something, but fair to assume, kind of sense of the council, continue to monitor it and look for opportunities for us to be a part of this budget committee. And then as it moves forward and if there's opportunities for us to have a more formal engagement, appropriate engagement, you know, governing's hard, right? And we don't want to lean into it just to, if this was low hanging, you know, we don't want to kick somebody when they're down, you know, and so, you know, there's, and being we want to be respectful, but we've got taxpayers who this is going to impact. And
again, it's a tough mixture because the county represents large communities and small communities. So it's a diverse set of interests that have to be met. So I just want to make sure as Orono comes in, I'll represent Orono and our interests as best as possible. That also means listening to what the county needs in this situation too. So, and it may mean a letter comes back. I don't know where, but I'd like to get with some other managers and find out what it is we can do. I'd like to hear from Scott Atkins as the administrator for the county and see what he's come up with since that meeting and that we can do. But again, it felt like it was going to be more time invested. And I really wanted to get this in front of you to see if there was general support. You don't need to vote yet, but I don't want to hear, you know, when we leave, this is just going to be something I want to make sure it's time well spent from your perspective.
Yep. Councilor Bayer.
So, as far as, you know, whether we join Brewer in taking a public stance or not, to even more of extent that, you know, these meetings are public, I will defer to those much better versed in county municipal relationships. Then there's probably some pros and cons, but I would appreciate, or I think that we should be pushing back to this increase. And I understand that the county has to raise money. So, you know, just an across the board saying no isn't the right answer. But it seems like there has been a history of mismanagement or something to that extent. Not suggesting anything nefarious, but before we simply just increase our taxes to support this deficit, I want to know that their financial house is in order and we're not just throwing good money after bad money.
Okay. Anything else on this item? We do not want the jail and the Sailor development. I'm pretty sure we're pretty clear on that. Yeah, that's where we're gonna put the Dan Demerit Orono International Airport. International Airport, Matt. We're not talking, you know, just crop dusters here. All right.
Canada.
We're gonna move to we'll close out our presentations and discussion items. Take it easy on me. Some people know when a joke is being told and others don't. Public hearings. I'm going to open public hearing A to consider amendments to the Town of Orono Code of Ordinance, Chapter 30, Solid Waste. And we'll turn first to staff on this. Shelley, apologize for keeping you with us so late, but thank you for joining us remotely. This is Shelley Crosby, our town clerk, and staff to the Ordinance Review Committee.
All right, so good evening, Shelley Crosby, Town Clerk. I am putting forward for public hearing the solid waste ordinance, which was reviewed throughout the summer by department staff as well as the ordinance committee, apologize. And in your packet, you should have been provided the internal memo, which outlines the different areas of the ordinance that got updated. And you would also have the original ordinance, the redlined copy, and then the clean copy with all of the changes made. I will add that this was a project that involved quite a few departments, and everyone really rolled up their sleeves and put forward an ordinance that we feel is more updated to the daily operations of that facility. And the last time that we had actually looked at this in depth was back in 2018. So it definitely was due. It had been a period of 7 years. Some of the significant changes of this is we did update the chain of command and the hierarchy of how that ordinance is going to be managed, meaning that we identified that the town manager does evaluate and supervise the public works director. The public works director, of course, is in charge of the public works department and is the figurehead of solid waste and runs up the chain of command to the town manager. And then staff, of course, would report to the public works director. We also removed any outdated definitions, any contractual vendors, or any operations which are no longer in force. We made accommodations for the introduction of Municipal Waste Hub. And we also looked at the minimum standards and the industry expectations through the year 2028 so that we had a solid waste proposal in front of you that was more policy driven and less daily operation driven. And that is the intent that we're heading as an ordinance committee, is we're trying to get the council back to a place of looking at the policy making versus the daily operation, and then daily operation would be treated through an SOP, standard operating procedure, or an actual policy that would be a department structure. So I'm not sure, Dan, that really gives the overview you were looking for, but it certainly explains the work that we've been doing throughout the summer and the early fall.
Councilor Larway chairs the ordinance committee. Anything, Rob, from you?
Just that Shelley's been incredible working with all the other staff members to do really thorough work here that makes sense to just clean up the section of the ordinances. These seem like really, basic but important changes to bring us up to where we're already up to practice.
I do appreciate, I don't know if it was said, I stepped out for just a second, Shelley, but I do really appreciate these cover memos as a chance to give the rest of council sort of an overview of what what we're talking about at the committee level, and to be kind of a history of kind of the thought process on why the change was made. So any other clarifying questions for Shelley? Okay, thank you, Shelley. Any comments from the public on this public hearing? Okay, and I guess that we will close the public hearing and thank Shelley for her time this evening. I'm not going to bang the gavel. All right, and that'll come up just for our information and others. That'll come up for a vote to the 17th of November, 30 days from now. Okay. The 17th of November. Consent agenda. Acknowledgement by counselors. You gonna stop me there? Or I gotta catch my own. Amanda often catches me at these bottom of the sheet changes. Acknowledgement by counselors. We'll start with Councilor Baker's side of the table.
Just Clint, Zach, and Mitch, as we work through the bonding prices process in Finance Committee, we are asking a lot of you all, and you're doing a wonderful job at compiling information, and I truly appreciate all the time that's gone into this, guys.
I just want to acknowledge that they're already putting the lights up for the Trail of Lights, which is amazing. And that takes a long time. And thank you to the staff who are involved in that. And I see that the big cherry lifter is out and people are putting those lights up. Thank you.
I almost hit it with my mountain bike the other day. Yeah. I'll go last, Councilor Marks.
Yeah, I think it piggybacks on Matt's, but I think a lot of us in town appreciate our trails year round. But for me, this is the most beautiful time of the year on all our trails. And a huge thank you to all the staff members, Trails Committee members, Land Trust people. There's so many people involved in making those trails available, and they're spectacular right now. I also wanted to actually mention that the town council performance survey is still live for one more day. So I am taking this as a chance to thank everyone who's already filled it out and to remind anyone who hasn't, staff, community members, counselors. Last I knew, there were a few of us who had not yet evaluated ourselves. We all have one more day, and counselors are expected to do it anyway. Everyone else gets to choose whether they would like to or not. But thank you to folks who already have. Data came in on that a bit. And last thanks to fire department staff who put together the safer data as requested in an incredible way. Just really, really helpful and clear. Thank you.
Councilor Hardison?
For my t-shirt today, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I want to thank Casper Cowan for their leadership. And there were a lot of organizations Friday that at the 13th annual March Against Domestic Violence, but Casper's leadership, it was a great turnout. And I appreciate that they have brought this attention to such an important issue.
Councilor Larway?
I guess just how large of a crowd of people from Sailor neighborhood came out to make their voices heard. I really appreciated their perspective on their neighborhood.
It's good to hear that early. I'll say I'd like to acknowledge Public Works and probably Parks for the work done on the Brownies Beach landing. I think it's beautiful. And I know we've heard from at least one member of the public with some concerns about how it'll change with the water level. I understand that, we're going to assess as we go and learn as we go and improve as we go. And I think that's exactly the right approach to those kinds of things. But I think I saw people when I was dodging the cherry picker the other day, I saw young people on the rocks kind of enjoying the river, and every opportunity we get to kind of embrace the river, I think is a good thing for Orono. So thank you for that. All right, now we're going to move beyond acknowledgements to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for us to pass things without discussion. Any counselor or any member of the public there's only one item on our consent agenda this evening, which is almost unheard of. But anyone can ask us to pull in this case, this particular item off the consent agenda and take it as a regular action item. Hearing none, seeing no concerns, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. And because there's no discussion, all those in favor? It's going to be 5-0. And note that Council Marks stepped out of the room for a moment. Action items. Order 25-257, order amending the Town of Orono fee schedule, concealed weapons permit. Clint, are you going to give us something quick on this, or?
You had a public hearing on this. This is the amendment that would just get us in conformity with state changes to the amounts to charge.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public?
So moved.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Okay. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? And any council discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Excellent. That's 5-0. And order 25-258, order authorizing the town manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with OEDC. Could I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Clint, real quick.
Yeah, I got an email as well today also from Dave Pickering regarding this. The MOU we've discussed quite a bit. It's included in the council packet. As we discussed even a little bit here in the Sailor neighborhood, we have a lot of parcels that the town owns. Some of them we have to maintain, but no one's ever developed a true list of what their stated purpose is. And we also thought this was also a chance to move a nonprofit that is purpose is growing the community consistent with our policies and ordinances. So what we've did is enter this agreement to meet those goals that are coming out of the comp plan and share in the profits of any sales of any lands that we would do, but also to both invest us 50,000, them 75,000 towards any monies we would need as we develop some of these parcels and look at them. Clear to point out that they talk quite a bit. None of this changes our charter and ordinances. Council's the only authority allowed to dispose of, sell, keep, maintain any property. So it would just be recommendations back to you as we work on them together, understanding that if we did sell one, it would be a 50-50 split. Conversationally, there's a few parcels that we've seen that are on the outskirts of town, seem to be buildable house lots that we just sit and own, and no one knows why they've stayed for the length of time. This does not include 98 Penobscot Street. That's on its own path right now that the town started, and they understand that as well.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? I have one, but anybody else have any? We're going to do clarifying questions, comments from the public, and then this council discussion. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the $50,000 town commitment comes, have we acted on that yet? Would that come as a separate item or is that?
It would come as, if you want to do the MOU, would come up. Right now, the two ideas I had is there's a couple reserve lines that could fund it now. The other one is that if we sell Penobscot Street for more than the 50 grand, I was thinking that we'd allocate that 50,000 towards it and put the remainder to a strategic investment reserve for the council. So there's no time crunch on this. Those are the two ideas I've been kicking around. If you have thoughts on either, I would probably like to wait and see if we can sell Penobscot Street. Last time the offers were around 100,000. I expect we will get them in that range again.
Excellent. Okay, that was my clarifying question. Any comments from the public? Okay, any council discussion? We'll start with Jacob.
The question, this came up at OEDC. I'm in support of this, but I abstained because I sit on OEDC. Should I abstain from this vote since I'm kind of on both sides?
No, you're a counselor. You abstain because you're a counselor there. I think you should vote here. Because
Okay,
you're a counselor,
alright.
you don't have a financial interest.
Perfect.
The, so so for discussion, I guess, is there any, apart from 98 Penobscot Street, are there any parcels that would be off limits here? Or so if the Penobscot County Jail offered us, like Matt's suggestion?
It's on the list as it sits today. I can share out again. I should have done that. I never put, we do have a property list of the town. It includes, like, we own the town office, we own all those, anything that's a town purpose already on it.
Okay.
I said it's not included. So if we decided to sell the town office, we're not sharing in those profits. It's just anything that's no stated purpose. These ones have stated purpose. This is the town office. That's a public safety building. That's a police station. Webster Park's a park. We're not selling any of those or doing anything with them. It's these multitude of half acre, quarter acre, third an acre, strips of land that don't even seem to serve as a trail. They're all over. We just kind of, and some of them maybe come back and saying, we just want to think it should be a trail. Let's name it that and get a list that everybody can work from.
So the Sailor, since we talked about it, if we did something with Sailor,
It would be included.
it would be included in this.
It's part of this deal. It
Okay.
would be included.
Got it.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? Council Marks.
I missed the very beginning, so I might have missed this, and if that's the case, I apologize. I think I'm in support of this. I don't have a problem with it at all, but I'm wondering if you could state clearly, maybe you did, what is the benefit to us as a town of partnering with OEDC on this? Like, what does that benefit bring to us as opposed to doing this ourselves?
I think it's at multiple levels. You have a service promise of your voice matters, and we're bringing more residents into this conversation that get more opinions and more ideas. It's not limited just to elected officials and staff. So I think that's a great step forward. It's a big organization. They've also signed an MOU that supports the growth of our community in very sustainable and meaningful ways. So I think that's the number one thing that it does, that we get extra opinions vested at the table right from the beginning.
And they don't go to Vegas when they make some money, right? They put
Yep,
that back into their mission.
The money is theirs, but they are supposed to use that for development of Orono.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's, seeing no more discussion, let's move to a vote. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous, 6-0. Thank you for that. Thanks for bringing that forward. Order number 25-259, order setting the date of November 17th, 2025 at 5 p.m. for a public hearing to consider amendments to the Town of Orono Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Land Use. Can I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded, and we'll get a presentation from Assistant Town Manager. It looks like Mitch Stone.
Mitch Stone, Assistant Town Manager. I am kind of filling in as we look to fill our planner role. And I just want to be clear about this, that obviously these are ordinance changes and we do have a comprehensive plan coming up. These are what Isabel would have called cleaning up. There are a lot of cleanup issues, whether there are state laws or something that have changed or things that are in practice aren't working for us. So there are two, I'm going to go quick through this. There are two pieces to this. This is just set to set the public hearing for November 17th. And at that time, obviously, we can talk further. The first one is around the land use ordinance to update and the review procedures described in this section to better reflect the current process being followed by town staff and planning board, namely updating references to the planning board designated staff person. Currently, it's the code enforcement officer, and that would be changed to the planner. So there's a couple other pieces in there around subdivision pre-application conference, making that optional, and a few other things. The second piece to this is around the land use ordinance to amend the definition of mobile / manufactured homes to comply with the 2024 state law commonly known as LD 337, an act to amend law governing the regulation of manufactured housing to increase affordable housing. This is just to change some of the definitions and to be compliant with that state law. As our ordinance sits right now, it needs to make some changes. So those are the two main things I would encourage in your packet. When you look at the planning board minutes from August 20th, there are timestamps. Go back, and Isabel did a great job of fully going through all these things. So if you have questions on it, if you look at those online, you can watch the video and she'll explain it to you much better than I can explain it to you. So.
Okay, any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? Any council discussion? Okay. All those in favor of Order 25-259, setting the public hearing? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, Mitch. 6-0. Order 25-260, order to see if the town of Orono will vote to adopt the provisions of 5 MRS Section 18252C PL 2021, Chapter 286, as allowed by Maine PERS Rule Chapter 803, and as printed in the agenda. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Clint, do you want to walk us through this, or? This is a two-parter, right? To adopt the provisions and then authorize the town manager to sign an amendment agreement between the town and the Maine PERS.
Correct. So, it's come up a few times since I've been here. There's currently only one employee probably still eligible, but we do get asked. So our rules, if you get hired by the town, you've got 3 days to decide if you want to join Maine Public Employees Retirement System. And some people feel pressured by the amount of time it takes to make that decision. Once you decide, that's forever. There are other options in front of us, but one of the ones that we talked about, and this was a year ago, and I didn't want to rush something like this, I wanted to spend some more time, was we can amend our agreement that allows a person that's hired to have up to 5 years in the open enrollment period to decide they want to become a member. Then it's no additional cost for buybacks or anything. It just gives that employee after 3 or 4 or 5 years saying, you know what, I am going to stay here. This is my lifetime commitment. And I want to start in the Maine PERS now, or I want to add to the years I already have. So this just gives us that opportunity to allow employee to opt in within the first 5 years. Staff's recommending it. We think it's good. I'm recommending it because I think it's helpful to employees to give them more options. We've made multiple measures since I've been here as a manager. And in fact, most recently is that all employees have to get a town manager sign off when they get hired of their election, so that there's just no confusion, that they understand this is a forever decision. You opt out, you can't just change your mind in a few years and say, no, I want in. It's a forever decision. So, yeah, I think it's good. Gives more flexibility to what we do. There's minimal exposure. Like I said, there's a few employees that would have this opportunity, and they may or may not do it. There's only 2 employees that are currently beyond the 5-year limit that are not enrolled, and that's that they're outside the 5 years. Can't do anything with those. One of them is well over the 5-year limit, though.
If we wanted to make it 50 years, we can't do it, right? 5 years, is all
5-year
Maine PERS allows you to do.
5 years.
Okay. Any clarifying questions before we, okay. Any public comment or?
I'm gonna abstain just because of my direct relationship to an employee.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor accept the abstainer? It's 5-0 with 1 abstention. Thank you. It sounded pejorative the way I said abstainer, but it was a responsible. I appreciate that you're transparent about that whenever you feel there's a need. So it was not meant to be pejorative at all. It's okay. We moved. We're gonna workshop the benchmark piece with the 56 Main Street property. So we're not going to do order 25-261, though we'll see something. I don't know if it'll be the same number or something after that with a workshop at 2 weeks from now. Order 25-262, I'd entertain a motion on this it's an order authorizing town manager to drop to $38,731.16 from the WPCF Enterprise Fund. Unassigned fund balance for roof repairs and heater replacement.
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Chris, is it cold down there, Chris? You gotta tell us.
Yeah, Chris Brew, WPCF. I'm sure you've all read the packet I had for the agenda. Yeah, we're asking to amend FY '26 budget to include accessing funds to the unassigned balance. These funds would be used to replace the propane gas heaters at the pump stations. We have 4. We're replacing 5 heaters. One's in disinfection. They're all 20 years or older. They've all had numerous repairs. It's time for them to go and be replaced. The roofs, although they don't leak now, they will be soon, just from experience. We've had situations in the past where the roof didn't leak, and then one night it did, and it cost thousands of dollars because it leaked on electrical equipment. And we need to avoid that from happening in the future. There is also some electrical work that needs to be paid for. We lost motor drives to some of the sludge handling equipment. These are situations where when this happens, we have to fix it, and we have to fix it now. If we don't, and the other one breaks, then we have nothing, and we could very easily violate our license. I've had these items in capital, and I thought they'd be there another year, but in discussions with Clint, we decided that we had plenty of money in unassigned fund that we could do it now.
Yep. Any clarifying questions?
I guess where does this leave the unassigned fund balance?
Excuse me?
Where would, I mean, I intend to vote for this. It sounds like a really obvious need. I was wondering just where does this then leave the unassigned fund balance?
It's around 1.3 right now, I believe, but we don't want to go beyond 800,000.
Okay.
And the total for all of this, the electrical, the roofs and the heaters, a little shy of 39.
Okay, that was a clarifying question. Any more clarifying questions, comments from the public? Council discussion?
I'm just wondering, I know you said something, that you were having this in the capital for a year and then this came up, but are these items that were part of the original budget discussion or budget proposal and then had to be taken out because we were looking for a reduction?
Nope, I'm trying to get us out of putting minor maintenance issues into your capital plan. I'm trying to get us focused that the capital plan's the bigger things, and the little ones we got to work into our operating budgets and unassigned fund balance. It was listed as a need that these were coming up, and they were there as in reference as we move forward from it, but they were not specifically removed from this year's capital improvement plan. We were looking to some bonding options. When he came forward and said it, I said, you know what, let's move on these now with unassigned fund balance rather than waiting another 6 months to a year.
I think what I'll probably do is I have a line for equipment replacement. That's historically been at, I think, around $20,000, and it's always been enough. The situation that we're getting into now is the plant is aging, and these types of things are going to continue to happen, especially with the electrical. You know, you need to understand that all of our equipment runs 24/7, 365. It never shuts off. The only time it shuts off is if we have to do maintenance. That's why everything we have 2 of. So if something breaks, we have a spare, but we need to immediately fix the one that broke, so we continue to have a spare. It's the nature of the business. It runs 24/7, and most of it runs submerged in wastewater.
Better your location than mine.
Yeah.
So anybody want to pick out the colors or anything before we vote on this? This, your pipes last 100 years. I don't know why, your shingles can't last that long, but I got to tell you, Chris, it's hard to fathom that you have to come to us and ask for permission. You're such a good steward of the work that you do.
Every
And
time I come here, I'm looking for money, right?
yeah, you do. But I mean, I always feel a little funny about voting to approve things on your budget because I feel like you're so on top of it and so gracious and concerned about it whenever you ask for stuff. So thank you. All those in favor? I hope it's everybody, given what I just said. Thank you. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. All right. Thank you. You do that without moving your lips? Order 25-263. We're having our own little separate meeting. I mean, order authorizing the town manager to create a planning and economic development manager position with funding from the current FY26 planning budget with any additional funds drawn from the budgeted FY26 TIF funds. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved. So Matt got it. And yeah. Okay. Clint, do you want to present on this one?
I can. Mitch is here as well. This is Isabel Exley our contracted planner is leaving. We've had a shortfall since last year, a little bit on the ability for what staff could do. As I've shared out, there's been a lot of change, a lot of things going on, but when you look at the 3 full-time positions that used to be here and most of that duty's falling on the 2, we need an extra person to assist. And right now we're presenting this only to create the position. Right now it's very close, but we think within the budgeted allotments for planning and what we have, and because it's a partial remaining year and we'll have to spend a month or 2 filling the vacancy, that we can fill it without any increases to this year's budget. If that's not the case, we'll know more come the time we fill the position or at the time we're getting near the end of the year. It's a TIF funded position 100%. So it would just be utilization. But again, I'm also looking at this from the perspective, we never spend 100% of that budget. I think within the efficiencies of the department, we can make it do for the rest of the year. But since this is adding this as a full-time permanent position, I wanted the council to approve this because that means it will be in next year's budget as a full-time position.
I bet that was going to come up. All right. Any clarifying questions? Kelsey, this clarifying question, not discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to know, what is the amount in the FY26 budget for the planning position currently?
It's a little difficult because it's actually in the contracted plan. And I think originally, I think we were around $42,000. And obviously we spent a little bit of that with Isabel. There also may be some funds left over from the comp plan funds that once that's finished up, we did move some stuff forward to that. And I think between those 2 lines, we should be pretty close based on what we believe that bottom.
What did we advertised the starting pay? That's probably right along the same lines. What did we?
Right around 73.
Yep.
And then if you take that out starting probably in December, you're right or pretty close.
And full disclosure, we're updating your pay and benefits plan. The one you've had doesn't include a position of this nature. So I classified it with staff to kind of feel where it felt most appropriate. So that's what got it to the 73,000 starting wage.
Okay, and so that was really my question. So the difference between what we were already funding and what this position might cost us, not so much this year, but in the future, we were already funding somewhere around 42 to 45. We'd be looking at funding about 75, but that's prior to benefits. There would also be benefits on top of that. So we'd probably be looking at something slightly over 100 for full cost. And you're feeling confident, I'm not this year, but as we look to future years, Clint, you to be feeling confident that that additional difference of 60, maybe a little plus thousand would be covered out of the TIF potentially going forward as well, not just this 1 year?
Correct.
Thank you. That's my question.
So by doing that, it wouldn't count as the FTEs that we talk about when we're looking at budgets and salaries?
It would increase your FTEs. Yes.
Okay. You said it would? Yep. All right. Any other clarifying questions? Have you posted the spot yet? Your job description?
We have. It's been posted for a little over a week. I told you at the last council meeting that I was going to post it pending this decision here. I'm doing well. Looks hopeful.
Okay. Any comments from the public? Any council discussion? Yep. All those in favor? I got 1, 2, looks unanimous, 6-0. And thank you. And look forward to having a safe space in the back, and look forward to having somebody with us. Sorry, which one? What's that? Let's do some committee reports. Community development, thank you.
We are currently working at coming back to the council for a vote on some proposed ideas for the Orono stops for making it safer here in Orono, some ideas for the staff. So we'll have a discussion on that coming forward in the next couple of meetings. And we're also going to be assessing the all the data and information that we got as part of the Orono Stops initiative that Dan put forth. We had a community-wide poll on what we should be tackling in terms of pedestrian safety, car safety, anything that had to do with the road safeties. And so we will start to prioritize those going forward. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I could just give Cody credit for
Yeah,
the survey.
thank
'Cause
you.
It was statistically relevant and absolutely accurate reflection of the priorities of the people of Orono. That, right? Yep. So
Yep.
we got a survey, a lot of great ideas about where we could do some safety stuff, and that's on it. Good. Thank you. Sorry, I'm not on the list. Next committee up is finance and
Finance.
operations.
Yeah, we've been spending the bulk of our time on bonding and options there. We're having another special finance committee meeting later this month, beginning of November, with the intent to bring back options to council for consideration and vote as far as projects to fund everything from do nothing, fund nothing, to fund everything, and a couple options in between, along with ways to pay that include everything from drawing completely off of reserves to bonding it all. So our goal, easy Dan, our goal is to bring council those options for discussion and consideration. Yes. So
It's like a menu.
yeah, a menu of options, exactly. I personally just wanted to come back with one option and take it or leave it, but Sarah and Leo want you all to have an option. So menu of options. Continue to discuss spending limits with the intent to hopefully bring actually an ordinance change to council December-ish. And then also today we started reviewing safer data on the Safer Grant Program, or those positions, with the intent to bring that data back to council in January as we prepare for our upcoming year's budget conversation.
Excellent. Thank you for the report. Next up, nominations, evaluations, and council policies committee.
We have not met since the last meeting, so there's nothing new to update. We will be meeting this week on Thursday. So we will continue on the policy and procedures manual.
Ordinance review committee.
Yes. So we did discuss the ongoing charge that we have to come up with a schedule for the review of ordinances. And part of what we discussed with Shelley was the fact that we likely aren't going to be meeting a 3-year goal of reviewing all things, partly because so many ordinances have gone for, in many cases, decades without having been touched. So the idea right now is the thoroughness of the work that we're doing over the course of the next several years, if this committee structure remains sort of as it is. The idea is that come, I want to say 2028, or in several years, the idea is then the hope is to get on to a 3-year cycle. So I think that's partly to answer your question that you raised at one of our previous meetings, Sarah, about where the committee was at in terms of talking about the schedule. We are about to be digging in a little bit more into Chapter 34, Traffic and Vehicles, to update things in line with sort of the fact that there's a lot of references to taxis and other things that aren't necessarily as important for us to be listing in ordinances right now, and how we're managing traffic and vehicles in town. Also, discussed, Shelley has been doing some really interesting work talking to Chief Merrill as well as others about the fact that ordinances only update online once a year in May, and how we can make sure that people have access to changes as they're happening. If there's some way that can be put on the website, other ideas. I mean, these are ideas that are being floated around. I think things are going to be brought to council more fully about what exactly is possible for us to make accessible the most up-to-date ordinance information for everybody in the public and make that easy to find. So I think we'll probably hear more from Shelley about that soon enough. I think that's everything right now.
You can ask, yeah, absolutely. You can ask a question.
Sorry.
When do I tell you no?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to ask, I really appreciated the memo that came from Shelley and to all of council. And I'm still hoping though that we might see an actual schedule of, I realize it will get bumped down as council keeps bumping things up in priority queue, but will we eventually see a schedule saying if we were on temporarily a 6-year schedule while we're in this more extensive phase, what order those chapters might be being looked at? Because I think it would be helpful to the council and the public to kind of know when they're coming up. Some of us might want to read ahead and see if we have any thoughts on anything. So I was curious.
I think we will be discussing that further. There is a document that I think everybody does have access to that is roughly the order that I think right now staff is currently working with, and with some priorities listed and all the rest. But I think the idea is that we're going to clean that up even more.
Yeah, it's not sequenced precisely, but winter 2025 or those kinds of things. So
Thank you. I appreciate knowing that'll come.
Yep. Oh, there was an email 4 days ago. So if you haven't, okay, so that's yeah. Okay. Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee.
We are we are trying to take bite-sized pieces out of our proposed work plan and actually be able to present this to the council in a way that actually has tangible goals. And so we're hoping to have that very soon. We have 22 kind of working ideas, and not all of these will make it to you guys, but there's a lot of ideas, and we're trying to organize this and have a really good first meeting with you guys. Right.
Okay, thank you. Comprehensive Plan Committee update. Up on Wednesday, October 29th, the Comprehensive Plan Committee and Planning Board will be holding a joint public hearing on the draft comprehensive plan, which is available on the website. It's been on the website in a draft form for, I think, about a month now. So people are encouraged to participate in that. And then after that public hearing, it'll move towards the council process for consideration this fall. Quinn?
10/27.
What's that?
October 27th, council workshop, just on comp plan.
Yep.
So that's not a hearing, just your presentation. So you were promised one directly. So we're going to fit those in so Isabel can assist us.
So Monday, October 27th, we're doing that.
Yep. And then the
Which is a week
29th
from
is the
today.
public hearing. We didn't want to do them both in the same night. It felt like it was overloading.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. And council chair update, I would share one thing. We're getting ready to do our Good Neighbor November meeting, and Rob and I co-chair that, and Rob and I will be discussing finding a suitable time for that November meeting. Pleased to report we have heard from the graduate student government in the last couple of days. So we have an appointment from the graduate student government, one appointment, and we have the 2 appointments that we've received from UMaine student government. So those members will be among those we reach out to in terms of finding the right time to schedule this meeting, working with staff and the chambers and things like that. So looking forward to that discussion and what we hear from staff about the first 3 months of implementation. So that's what I have for the chair update. I guess I would remind people that we've got an election coming up, and we've got 2 council seats and 1 school board seat, and among other referendum type issues that'll be on the ballot. So we encourage people to take part in that election. And so that's it. I'll turn it over to the town manager for his report.
Yeah. So year-end work plan, since we're doing the 6-month quote unquote check-in tonight, that is the completion. I want to do this every year. I adopt a work plan. I'll show you the progress. It's never expected to be 100% complete, but I am extremely impressed with staff and everybody's efforts, council, community. We moved a lot of things over the past year. And to some degree, maybe too many. So we'll talk more as we move forward, but I'm quite impressed with what we did. This will be how we evolve it. It's a growing, changing document every year, but I like to have a little bit of a metrics just based upon my analysis of we set a goal. Do we do nothing, 25, 50, 75, 100%, you know, and just what we should do with it for the going forward for future years. Some of these need to roll. It may have hit 100%, but we got to bring it back because now the step 2 should be in front of us, and I'll work with you on those. Staff appreciation's been set for December 10th. We will be closed. And we want to see what counselors are available. We'd love to have you join us for lunch and some of the awards for longevity and maybe a couple surprises I'm working on with staff as we get between now and there. So email me or Amanda if you'd like to attend, and we'll get you all squared away. We are doing a delayed office opening on November 5th after the elections, so that the election staff that works late can come in, get a chance to get their feet under them before we start. And on that same day, we're having a graduation tomorrow for the Art of Human Relations from our second class of 20-ish staff members, which will put us at 36 total have done this in the past year. And we're going to close the office from about 12 to 1 to have some pizza as a group and celebrate our progress. So it'll be a short closure then as well. The 2026 proposed state valuations in there. Just something I wanted you to share, something we put out, wanted you to see, take a look where our valuation is growing. We are consistently challenged by the fact that COVID and house values have grown at a rate that's been hard for all towns across the state to keep up with. Orono is suffering from that as well, and our assessor is diving into year 3 of a 3-year plan to try to correct this. Probably will have a workshop of some nature late winter, early spring, without interfering with the lengthy budget process, to update you on how he did and what he did to make it happen. But we are seeing some inconsistencies, and the number 1 rule of assessing is to have equity across all housing, all commercial real estate, et cetera. So he's working on that. Art Festival, I met with MJ Sedlock. I'm going to have an agenda item I'm going to be speaking with leadership about, but we did well on the Fall Festival. She had some ideas for growth opportunities, and thought it was great to bring to you guys a potential for additional funding request. So she's going to see if you'll take some of that savings and put it towards her. We'll have more information for you when that comes. I received notice this morning that the Webster neighborhood train track schedule is finally in front of us. And it's the 27th and 28th, and you will be public announcements coming out, but they will be working 24 hours straight. The railroad's got to bore under it, build the trenches so that they can go under it. And if they came back and forth, it will be weeks of work. Whereas right now I saw a start date of the 27th, probably done the pit by the 28th. Boring would start, that's right after that, and be done by the 30th is the current information I have. But this is an evolving process with our engineering firm at Oliver Associates.
So that's
But the
under
week of the week
North Main
coming into
Street?
Halloween,
Yeah.
it'll be pretty much 24/7 at the train tracks.
We're gonna have a tunnel under the train track.
They're gonna tunnel,
Not-
big 2 pits to put a tunnel under the track.
Okay.
Yep.
Not fit for kids though, right? I mean, stay away from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a notice like going out to the Webster?
It's gonna hit our website tomorrow. I think I sent it off to Cody. We've got the information. We're working on all that. We'll probably be sending notices to the neighborhood directly. But again, we've got 1 week to get this out to everybody, and we're gonna get on it.
And
So
so it's from the 27th to the 30th.
that's the current schedule I have. We're confirming whether it's gonna be the 31st. I urge them not to be working on the 31st since it's Halloween. But we'll see where we end up. And then you did pull the order regarding benchmark. And I think that was a great decision. I think you need more time to vet these. I think we're learning as we work with each other. That was an RFQ process that we adopted in July. It led through them. 5 different vendors were interested. We interviewed 2. Benchmark gave a great proposal. I will share that one out for the council to see as well in advance of the workshop, and now for November 3rd. They are putting forward what is a construction management agreement that will lead to a GMP contract, which is considered guaranteed maximum price. In your package, you had an AIA agreement. There's some, goals. They were working towards a $3.25 million project, but they're not sure. They've been extremely responsive. They were going to get information for me today, but I knew from the finance committee's input and what was going on, I asked them to take their time. I knew we were going to be doing something different. And so I said, let's get some more information from them. We're also going to look at other options of what we could pursue here with staff. This is a very big project in the sense that you only do these about once every 30, 40 years when you change police stations, fire stations, do major additions to libraries. So we want to make sure you get it right and you've had time to fully consider this. It's a really good approach. Doesn't mean it's the only. So we'll see you on November 3rd. And if you have any questions between now and then, filter my direction and I'll try to assemble as best we can a summary of those for follow-ups and things we could do. But right now, more focused on how to move forward on that project.
Do you think that does it make sense to put an action, given that you may be coming back with some things from staff too? I don't want to create I want to move quickly, but I want to reach a decision and not, extend this beyond the point where it delays the project. But does it, do you think it's appropriate to have the workshop, the involved discussion, and then have a vote? And I guess I'm asking other councilors too, are we going to be prepared, nodding of heads to make a decision after this workshop? I'd like to think we could, but.
Well, I think you also need to, yes or no is fine,
Yeah.
either option or variation, but we at least got to show the current vendor that we're willing to get to that. This will change their workload. If we're not going to commit to this project, they need to find other work.
Yep.
They have a staff of people they work with that they want to keep employed and working on new projects and building a queue. So we can be methodical, but we can't take advantage of them working with us.
All right. So
Yep.
good. So we're going to make a call on
Yep.
November 3rd. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
Well, we'll have an opportunity, whether we will, but. Yeah.
And is that everything? That's everything.
Can you, no, not quite. How'd the traffic signaling go today? Is everything okay with that in terms of,
I got to postponed.
oh, did it get postponed?
Yeah, so they're moving the date. That notice is coming out as well, or went out today, but they moved the date. They could not install it. It was pushed out because of equipment timelines. So that all changed.
Okay,
Again, working with outside agencies, this is what we deal with.
No, I agree. But when that upgrade's done, we're gonna have better responsiveness from the signaling, right? That was, I recall, I don't remember the order number, but when we approved
There's a couple things. One, like during the events, hockey events, we have to plunge it, they call it. They have to be there and manually do it. It can actually be set up on a timer, which is a major step forward. Bigger than anything though, it's going to set up the equipment we need for any improvements long-term in that intersection. It's the best equipment available. So other lighting changes that we may do in the future, we have a $3 million CDS grant for that intersection. This equipment will be better serving our community's needs for all that. But the immediate fix is programmable time slots on the changing of that signal light for major events at the university.
So this is incredibly unfair, but far be it for me not to be unfair sometimes. So would that include, like, if we wanted to do something with the 3 curb cuts at the Circle K? There's 3 curb cuts. It's such an odd intersection, right? There's, you've got the roads, and then you've got a curb cut at Woodman's, and then 2 at Circle K. And the Facebook was alive with a kid who got hit. Didn't get hurt, fortunately, but got hit at that. It's a hard intersection.
So we're going to have to do something with that. That's not going to be fixed with this. This is
Right.
but the lines that are underground, I think you've heard this at different times. We've had struggles. They're also replacing those. We've confirmed with Sebago, the underground lines can be done now and they will not affect future projects. It was a small ad and it's foolish not to do it now because
Yeah.
it could be 3 years before we see that project occur.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to wait 3 more years with
Good.
that.
Well, I don't feel that bad about asking you unfair questions because you're so well prepared to answer them. So I appreciate it.
It's all because I got a great team give me the information as fast as they can and
Yeah.
it's fast.
Yeah, that Circle K parking lot's going to come up. All right. Sure, Counselor.
I don't know how quick, but is it possible for the week that they're working on the railroad, that we could look at opening the back gate to the Ave so that people living on Penobscot would have an exit point other than going over the tracks?
I mean, say we will? No. Look at it? Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'll take a look. Yeah.
Okay. Um, anything else in the manager's report? Yep, we don't have any public petitions. Future agenda items, I've got a couple quick ones. Anybody have any? What we talked about, and I don't know if I was supposed to bring this up in my chair report, but we talked a little bit about Holton, I think at the end of our ordinance review committee. And if you follow the news up there, they've had some challenges with their town manager and several members of the council. And it's not clear to me what, if we show up 2 weeks from now and it's just Matt and I and the rest of you aren't here. I don't know how we govern so it's not clear to me like that kind of like, and nobody anticipates it until I'm sure the good people of Holton didn't anticipate it, but so we talked with Shelley, Rob, right, about just kind of getting a better understanding of where we are with the charter, with that kind of thing. And we'll bring something back in terms of just our own awareness and.
So yeah, what we discussed was basically if we were going to have this be something we discuss in the ordinance review committee workload, we would want to make sure we're doing that through the right channel and see what the rest of council thinks about that being something worth moving up on the priority list. I don't think we anticipate this becoming an imminent issue here in Orono, but I think, Dan raised it, said it might be worth us discussing. And I guess the question is maybe this isn't your question, Dan, but if that's something that the ordinance review committee is taking on or not.
I don't want any part of these king rallies, targeting Orono or anything. So I don't want to be, I like governing with, 7 of you as opposed to, so, all right. So
just to be clear, is that a future ask that council talk about whether we want the ordinance review committee to bring us a proposed ordinance of how we would handle such a situation? Or what exactly is that future ask?
I suppose it's to work with maybe to make aware, and I don't know if it's a need to ask, but I'm going to try and get a sense of and maybe it's maybe we assign it to NECAP if there has to be something more than what we have in place. But I think may ask, and we can talk about it in the leadership development committee, council leadership meeting, where are we with that kind of thing? And if it's something where we need to formalize some kind of, we plan meticulously for all this stuff, and then, you miss the big one, so.
Okay, yeah, but it would come back to council another time for us to say, yes, we want to assign this to a committee.
Yeah,
Okay,
if
got it.
there's action needed, And if there's something in the charter that we're just not reading, then maybe it's covered, but I'll bring that back too. Well, we will. And then finally, we have been talking a little bit about the fireworks, as you recall. We got rained out at the very end of Orono Festival Day. So we've been talking about that. And I don't know if we've got anything else. I don't know if we're going to decide that just staff's going to set the date for it based on where we want to go. We're being mindful around hockey games and other things that are going on with like the Stillwater River and the end of the
Strong
semester.
support for the Friday that closes the student year before finals for the University of Maine. So it would tie back to that. That's the strongest date right now we're looking at, but it's not set for certain. It seemed like to have positive feedback, but if not, we're going to probably have to roll it because the holiday tree lighting and hockey events, it was going to create some chaos in the downtown we didn't need.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we'll get a decision made on that. And I think it would be a nice way to celebrate the end of the semester. So, all right. Item 14 is public comment. Anybody have any public comment they'd like to share with us as we come up on the 7:15 hour? And at least 20 minutes of that's my fault. Sorry. Okay. No public comment. No one online. Okay. Executive session. And we are not going to have anything after executive session, right?
You might have action on one. Might
have action on one item.
or you might tell me to bring it back for the next meeting. I don't know which way
Okay.
you go.
So we're going to, we may, for those in the know, and if we do come back, it'll be on the YouTube channel, right, Cody? Yeah.
Can I ask which one we're doing first? Are we doing the one we might come back with action on first?
Yeah,
Okay,
second one's the 360 review of the
okay,
town manager.
thank you.
So I'll take a motion to move into executive session pursuant to 1 MRS 456A. Okay, all those in favor? Okay, we're in executive session. We're gonna do it here. We're gonna move into the conference room.
I think here's good.
Okay, we'll do it here. Thank you, everybody.
I gotcha. Have a good one. Hey, Zach. Zach.
Precise meeting. What are you doing? You're doing the downstairs stuff or what? Harry, no, everyone really like it. See you.
Oppose.
You would make I make a motion
All right.
to authorize
Alright.
the town manager.
Okay, the Orono Town Council is. You don't upstage me, Jacob. The Orono Town Council is back from executive session and will entertain a motion from Council Larway.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to reconcile contributions to the town 457 plan and main PERS for an employee whose deductions did not match the original intent of the enrollment, and to fund an extra town portion of contributions from the interest on investment reserve up to $15,000.
Have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. It's 6-0. Thank you.
Need another
That-
motion to go back in.
Yep, I would like a motion to move back in this. We will not be coming back into session, public session after this. I will just be adjourning directly after this last executive session. I'll take a motion moving it. Move it and second in pursuant to one MSR. I'm going to say it anyway. One MSRA 405-6A. All those in favor? Thank you. We're in executive.